So you've ever grabbed an energy drink, right? Or maybe you've wandered down the supplement aisle. Chances are you've seen the name L-Carnitine. It's in everything, and it's almost always tied to this one huge promise: burning fat. But here's the big question. Does it actually work? I mean, is this a real science-backed tool for weight loss, or is it just a bunch of marketing hype? Well, that's exactly what we're here to figure out. Let's get into it.
Now, to get a real answer, we're not going to rely on some random blog post or influencer opinion. Nope, we are going straight to the source. And that source is a major scientific review from a pretty serious journal, Clinical Nutrition ESPN. And look, this isn't just one isolated study. We're talking about a review that pulls together the results from tons of different studies to give us the clearest possible picture.
All right, first things first, let's tackle the fat burner question head on. It's time to separate the hype you see all over the internet from the actual hard evidence. Okay, so what is L-Carnitine anyway? The easiest way to think about it is like a little taxi for fat inside your body cells. Its whole job is to pick up fatty acids and drive them over to the cell's power plants, the mitochondria, where they can get burned up for fuel. So the theory, right, it makes sense. More taxis means you burn more fat.
And that simple idea is exactly what leads to all those claims you see on the supplement bottle. The claim? L-Carnitine helps burn fat. The real question for us, okay, but does that actually lead to real, measurable weight loss? It's marketed as this big anti-obesity supplement, but what we really want to know is, what does all the scientific evidence, when you put it all together, actually say?
And that brings us right to the evidence. To really get what's going on here, we need to talk for a second about how the scientists got their answer. It's something called a meta-analysis.
So what's a meta-analysis? It's basically a study of studies. Think of it this way. Instead of just looking at one piece of the puzzle, scientists gather up all the high-quality studies on a topic, and then they use some pretty powerful statistics to combine all those results. What you get is a much more reliable, big-picture answer, way more powerful than what any single study could tell you on its own. And believe me, this process is super rigorous. Just look at this chart. It shows you how incredibly selective the researchers had to be. They started out with more than 6,000 possible studies. From there, they had to filter out duplicates, irrelevant papers, low-quality research, and they ended up boiling that huge number all the way down to just the 37 absolute best trials. And get this, those 37 studies included a grand total of 2,292 people. That is a huge sample size, which means we can be pretty darn confident in whatever the final results turn out to be. Okay, so after all that filtering and analysis, what's the verdict? Let's get to the bottom line results on L-Carnitine and weight loss.
All right, finding number 1. It works. Taking L-Carnitine led to a significant drop in body weight. On average, the people taking the supplement lost an extra 1.21 kilograms, that's about 2.7 pounds, compared to the people who didn't.
And it didn't stop there. They also saw a significant drop in body mass index, or BMI. It went down by an average of 0.24. Now this is a really important one. The results show this wasn't just water weight or something. No, there was a significant decrease specifically in fat mass. We're talking an average of 2.08 kilograms, which is over 4.5 pounds of fat. Okay, but here's where things get a little more nuanced. So yes, body weight, BMI, and total fat mass all went down. But, and this is a big but, the researchers found no significant change in two other important measurements: waist circumference and overall body fat percentage. So what does that tell us? The effect is real, but it's also pretty specific. But those big numbers don't really tell the whole story, do they? To really get what's going on, we have to dig a little deeper into the details, the dose, the nuance, and figure out who really benefits the most from this. First off, even the scientists who did the study call the effect modest, so we're not talking about a miracle drug here. And here's the really critical part. It didn't work the same for everybody. The effect was most significant for adults who are already in the overweight or obese category. For people who started out with a normal BMI, the analysis found no significant change in their weight at all.
And here's another really interesting twist. It turns out that more isn't always better. If you look at this graph from the study, it shows something called a nonlinear dose response. Now, that's a fancy term, but all it really means is that you can't just keep taking more and expect to lose more and more weight. There's a sweet spot.
And the data tells us exactly where that sweet spot is. The biggest drop in weight was seen with a dosage of 2,000 milligrams a day.
Taking less than that wasn't as effective, and interestingly, taking more than that didn't seem to add any extra benefit.
All right, so let's put this all together. What does this actually mean for you? Let's boil it all down to the key takeaways so you can put this evidence into practice.
Okay, here's the summary. The science is pretty clear. L-Carnitine can give you a modest but statistically significant drop in weight, BMI, and fat mass. But it really only seems to work for adults who are overweight or obese. The magic number for dosage seems to be right around 2,000 milligrams a day. And, perhaps the most important point of all, the study's authors make it a point to say that you can get similar or even better results just from a healthy diet.
So, what's the final verdict? Well, the evidence shows a real but modest effect. It's definitely not a magic pill, but it's not pure marketing hype either. So I guess the final question is really for you. Is that small boost from a supplement worth it? Or does all this science just prove, once again, that when it comes to real, lasting results, diet and exercise are still king? That's what you have to decide.